and welcome to The Watchman, where I am standing right now. Just last night, less than 24 hours ago, was the scene of a Hamas rocket attack in this apartment building. One person was killed, two severely injured as Hamas escalates an onslaught, a rocket and missile barrage against the communities of southern Israel. Now, right now, folks, we are standing in Ashkelon. We're about 6 miles from the Gaza border. You can see the horrific damage behind me to this apartment building. Over the past 24 hours, Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, these Iran-backed terrorist organizations, have fired over 400 rockets, missiles, and mortar shells at the communities of southern Israel, not only here in Ashkelon, but Ashdod, Sderot, the kibbutzes around southern Israel. They are facing this onslaught. Now, thankfully, Israel has Iron Dome. The anti-missile defense system has taken a lot of these rockets and missiles out of the sky. The IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, are on alert. They are ready to face down Hamas. But look, folks, this has persisted for over a decade now. Hamas continues to escalate. They're not going to change, because then they wouldn't be Hamas. They're not going to lay down their arms. What's the solution long term? We don't know. But today on The Watchman, we are bringing you on the ground, breaking news perspective of the situation in southern Israel as Hamas escalates their terror war against Israel. We're going to start with our good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus of the Israel Defense Forces, who gave us a breaking update of the situation right here in Ashkelon, where, again, less than 24 hours, one man was killed, two severely injured by a Hamas rocket attack right over my shoulder. Take a look. We're here with the international spokesman for the IDF, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus. Jonathan, tell us the latest. This is a major escalation by Hamas.
Well, Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad have obviously made a deliberate decision to fire a massive amount of rockets. They hide their rockets behind civilians inside the Gaza Strip, and they aim their rockets at Israeli civilians, and the result, unfortunately, sometimes is like this. They have fired more than 400 rockets in less than 24 hours, which is a massive amount of rockets.
The biggest onslaught since 2014.
Definitely one of the biggest, if not the biggest. And what we see is a deliberate effort to kill our civilians, to use weapons indiscriminately. What we're doing is a few things. We're defending in the air using the Iron Dome system, which has been very successful, despite what we see here. More than 100 interceptions of rockets that were on target to hit similar areas like this in Ashkelon, in Sderot, in Netivot, in other communities in Israel. That's one aspect which is so far doing quite well. Of course, we want to avoid situations like this, but that's one aspect. Second aspect is how we defend on the ground. We know that Hamas and the other terrorists will try desperately to cross the border and to attack either Israeli communities or to attack Israeli troops. So we have enhanced our capabilities on the ground to make sure that we deny them those capabilities. And the third thing would be our offensive efforts that we have done. So far we have retaliated and we have struck 100, a little bit more than 100 military targets belonging to either Hamas or the Palestinian Islamic Jihad inside the Gaza Strip.
You mentioned that Hamas also trying to infiltrate the border, not only from the air with the rockets and missiles, but we have the terror tunnels and infiltration that way. Tell us how you're preparing for that.
Well, the terror tunnels, that's an interesting thing, because once upon a time, just a year or so ago, Hamas thought, and it was part of their strategy, that they have a secret way to overcome our defenses, or to undercome, if you'd like, our defenses, and to get into Israel and to pop up inside an Israeli community or close to an Israeli position and try to abduct Israeli soldiers or to kill Israeli civilians. That ability has been taken away from Hamas by the IDF. We have a new system in place where we are able to detect and subsequently destroy tunnels dug by Hamas while they are being dug. And this is not only me saying it, we have proof of purchase, so to say. We have destroyed 17 terror tunnels that Hamas has dug from inside Gaza, inside Israel, violating Israeli sovereignty. So we've destroyed 17 of those, and that is probably one of the reasons for Hamas's desperation. They are desperate to do what they're doing, to fire such a massive amount of rockets towards our civilians. It indicates that they are desperate, that they are trying to leverage whatever capabilities they have. We, of course, will not tolerate that.
Yeah, Jonathan, another facet to this is that Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, Iran-backed terror organizations.
Sure, there's a common denominator here. Most of the negative things, most of our enemies that we face, whether it is Hezbollah in the north, the Revolutionary Guard, Iranian Quds Force in Syria, or Palestinian Islamic Jihad in Gaza, or Hamas for that matter, a common denominator behind the scenes, pulling strings, giving money, providing weapons, providing guidance, explosives, trainings, etc. All of that is done by Iran, and that is why we speak so much about Iran. We try to highlight to the international community what a menace Iran is, how dangerous they are, not only for Israel, but for really for regional stability. What they're doing is very dangerous, and part of the weapons that have been fired now over the last day towards Israeli civilians, they originated in Iran. We in the IDF, the men and women in uniform, our task is clear. We know what our job is. It's to defend the people of Israel. But really, it's admirable, really commendable, the resilience, the resolve by which Israeli civilians are patient and are able to keep their cool, keep their focus. The sad situation is that on the other side of the border, a few miles away, is an extremist Islamist organization that wants death and destruction. And we're trying to deal with that situation to provide stability and a sense of security for our civilians, but to make sure that Hamas is always on the back foot, feeling targeted, and that we have good intelligence which will allow us to target accurately what we need to target.
Well, Jonathan, we are with you. Keep up the great work, my friend. Thank you so much.